Okay, fine. So in the previous class, so we were trying to derive the Rans equation. So we ended up with an kind of an equation where we had the fluctuating components u dash, v dash, w dash. So represented in terms of stress tensors. So if you want to solve for any of the unknowns in the Rans equation, so we have three velocity components, one pressure component, and six stress tensors because there are nine are there. Anyway, we are getting reduced it to so six actually. So total there are 10 unknowns. But the number of equations what we have is only three equations. Even if you take the continuity equation, it's only four equations. So four equations but 10 unknowns, it's difficult actually. So this is the beginning point of introduction of what we call it as turbulence models. Okay. Now, if you look at the turbulence models, if you take any of the turbulence models which we have been used in the CFD and all, the turbulence models, so we come across two things. One is time average, time average components. So it can be velocity or pressure, whatever it may be. So the equation is based on time averaged components. And other than this, actually, sometimes we have an equation where an additional transport equation. What is this transport equations? So transport equations means those equations which are added to calculate the unknowns. Okay, so transport equation along with the Rans equation, what we call Rans equation, and we end up with different turbulence models. Okay, this is where the beginning of your turbulence model will look into how I can capture the turbulence phenomena in a fluid flow. Okay. Now, if you try to look into the any of the turbulence models, like types of turbulence models, if you look into it, so the first and the foremost thing what we come across is actually few are eddy viscosity models. Eddy viscosity models on one side. On other side, we have the Reynolds shear transport models. Shear transport models. So most of your turbulence models are divided into these two big categories. Okay. Now, under eddy viscosity model, we have different zero equation model. It's also called as zero equation model. So under this actually, let me put that, put a vertical line and show you. Okay. Under this, so we have different turbulence models. Okay. Let me write one by one. Okay. So either we call it as zero equation model or algebraic model. Okay. Algebraic or zero equation model. So under this, we let's try to name a few things. So among them, the famous one is the Baldwin-Lomax model, which is extensively used. Baldwin-Lomax model. Okay. Then we have Johnson-King model. Johnson-King model. And then we have the another one, which is Smith model, which is Selassie Smith model, which is not that extensively used, but among the zero equation or algebraic equation model, eddy viscosity model, the foremost which is used is the Baldwin-Lomax model, which was proposed by Baldwin and Lomax and which has been used for, say, for example, some of the one more model is the Spalart-Alamas model, which is a one equation model, which is very much used in your shock capturing and all. Okay. So then the second one is the one equation model. One equation models. So under this we have, we'll try to look into one or two. So one or two we'll try to look into in another couple of classes. So maybe a Prandtl's mixing length model, or maybe K omega model, K epsilon model. We'll try to look into one or two models. That should be enough, because we can't look into each and every model. Okay. The first here is Prandtl. This was proposed by Prandtl mixing length model. Mixing length model. Then the Szilard-Alarmanus model. Szilard-Alarmanus model. And then we have the Baldwin-Lomax model, which was the zero equation model. And we have same Baldwin with Bath actually. So these two people, they proposed an one equation model which was used to capture the turbulence phenomena. So then we have what is called as two equation models. Okay, two equation model. So under two equation model, we have K epsilon, K omega, all those models will come. Okay. Let me write that. This is two equation model. Two equation model. So here we have the first one is the standard K epsilon model. Okay. Then the second one is realizable K epsilon model. Okay, and the third one is RNG, that is realizable. This is normalized actually. Renormalized group. RNG means renormalized group. K epsilon model. Okay. Then we have the fourth one. Sometimes we need to capture what's happening near the surface of it actually. So we have the one more K epsilon model for near wall treatment. Near wall treatment, K epsilon model. Okay, K epsilon model. So these are some of the models which has been used extensively by the under eddy viscosity models. If you want, you can look into the K omega models also. Okay, so K omega model, we have the SST model. We have. Let me write that also. Okay, so then under this actually the two equation model only. So we have K omega models. The K omega models. We have the first, it was proposed by Wilcox. K omega model. This was the first model. Then the same Wilcox modified, and they call it as Wilcox K omega modified model. We have the Wilcox modified K omega model. Okay. Then we have the what you people have been using, SST K omega model. Then so we have the here also we have the near wall treatment, which used to capture the what's happening near the wall, near wall treatment, K omega model. Okay. Now these are some of the your eddy viscosity model, or what we call it as the turbulence model, which is based on your eddy viscosity. Then on the Reynolds stress transport model. So here the difficulty in using this Reynolds stress transport model is because of the number of equations involved. number of equations involved. Okay. So if you look at the eddy viscosity models, most of them are either a one equation model, two equation model, or a zero equation model. But here, the number of equations can go up to a maximum of 7. Okay, maximum of 7 equations has to be solved to solve for the turbulence. This thing. So under this actually, so we have the first thing is the Cato-Lambda modification model. So these are very rarely used. Okay, then the second one, Durbin's realizability constraint model. Then we have for the app correlation. So one more model which is called as app correlation model. Then we have the Sherwood's. Okay, this was proposed by this guy. Sherwood's inequality model. So just you people might have not read about these models, but these models are there under Reynolds shear stress models, but very rarely these models are used. Most of the time what we come across and try to use is these are the models. Either we'll try to use the, if I'm trying to use for the maybe some kind of a simple flow and all, I'll go with a one equation model. So the best among them is actually either I can use Palat-Alamanus model or Baldwin-Butt model. These are the two equations what we use, two models. Or if I want to go for any kind of a three-dimensional flow phenomena or two-dimensional flow phenomena, I'll start all my model with K omega model or K epsilon model. So you can start with K epsilon model or standard K epsilon model or realizable K epsilon model, or directly we'll get into the K omega models, SST K omega. These are some of the models which has been extensively used in most of your CFD studies. But if you come on the to the right hand side of it, Reynolds stress test models, there are certain models which I told, some 4 I have named actually. These models are used for a specific purpose under condition where I need more accuracy. At the same time, so you have other kinds of models or turbulence models and all which are used actually. So and they all fall into Reynolds shear transport models. Something like I want to take up an equation where I have my computational power, good amount of computational power is available. At the same time, I need to solve more number of equations. So under these conditions, I can use any of these 4 different models. Okay. Let's look into one such model as per your syllabus. Okay, that is called as Prandtl's mixing length theory model. Okay, we are not going to do any derivation and all, but we'll look into that particular thing. So, Prandtl's mixing length theory model. Prandtl's mixing length theory model, and this was proposed by Prandtl in the year around 1925. Okay, now so if I try to take any flow phenomena, if I try to take any flow field, let it be this is the flow field. Okay, this is the flow field, and if I try to consider 2 different points, if I try to consider 2 different points, and if I want to measure the turbulence phenomena between these 2 different points, so let me call that as L. Okay, let me call that as L. Now, at any given point, see what exactly your Prandtl's mixing length theory model speaks of. See, if L is the distance between the two layers in the, this, see, what is this actually? This is in the forward direction, or we can call it as a transverse direction. Okay, such that I'm going to look at the momentum of the particle. Okay, I'm going to look at the momentum of this particle. See, these are the particles. I'm taking two particles between this distance, that is L, between the 2 points. So it can be maybe the 2 points can be sometimes, if you can, I can consider this as a two layers also, layers of fluid flow. Okay, so what we try to do is actually Prandtl's mixing length. It tells that if I try to try to analyze the momentum of this particular particle between these 2 points, it should be conserved. That means I should be able to know the value of it, that particular thing. So based on my shear stress phenomena. So that's the meaning of it. Okay. So that's what your Prandtl's mixing length said. So that means even though whatever may be the mixing, I try to look into that actually. Your U dash or whatever it may be, I should be able to express it in terms of that particular length. It's something like you have mu is equal to du by dy. In the similar fashion, I should be able to represent that particular thing based on this length scale. Okay, if I take either it can be L or whatever it will, I have taken this as an L actually. So anything you can consider. So L is just a sign convention what we are trying to. So let me write that. So if L is the distance, if L is the, this is the mixing distance. If L is the distance between the 2 points or two layers, okay. So those two layers sometimes according to us between the two layers, maybe in the forward direction or transverse direction. In the transverse direction, okay. So such that the momentum, such that the momentum of the fluid particle, of the fluid particle in the direction, in that particular direction is conserved. That means it doesn't change. That's the meaning of it. Conserved, anything is conserved means it's not going to fluctuate or something. Okay. Now, so what we have actually at any given point, if I try to write in terms of shear stress of any fluid particles or something, so for a turbulent phenomena, so you have the, if I represent it as tau t is equal to, so I have the average component plus have that particular fluctuating component. So the tau is represented by mu into du by dy, where y is the distance measured in y direction. See, this is my y direction and this is my direction. So y is the distance measured from the solid boundary. So the from the surface or whatever it may be. The same convention holds good here also. Okay, I can write this equation as mu into du dash by duy, or then what is it actually? The fluctuating component, I can write it as mu t or whatever it may be. So into du bar by dy. Okay, now what is this fluctuating component? This fluctuating component, I can write it as this fluctuating component is nothing but in terms of your velocity, I can write like this, rho uv or whatever it may be. It may be of this particular form actually. It may be of this particular form. Okay, or your fluctuating component has a viscosity which is fluctuating, it is mu t, and mu is for the average component or the one component which is almost remains constant. So I have both the average component and I have the fluctuating component. Okay. Now, what Prandtl proposed is actually, he proposed that at any given point, he proposed, so he proposed that at any given point, your fluctuating component u dash is equal to, instead of mu, that should be represented in terms of L. Okay, it should be L into du by dy, and your v dash, okay, your v dash, what I call it as the fluctuating component, so that's equal to L into dv by dy. So I have the components of the fluctuation u and v represented in terms of the equivalent, the length L, the distance between that particular layers. So what will happen actually? So from this actually, what is your tau f? He also proposed that your fluctuating component, whatever I have, this fluctuating component, you have with respect to rho into u dash and v dash. So that I can write it as, see, this I can write it as, so I have rho as it is. So u I can write it as, see, sorry, this is u only because it is respect to u only. So u I can write it as, it is L into du by dy, then v dash I can write it as L into du by dy. Okay, so what will happen, this particular thing I can write it as rho into L square into du by dy whole square. So I can represent it, your fluctuating component, by as a representation of in terms of some length square. Okay, this is represented in terms of length square, and this L is something which has to be found experimentally or some kind of a constant, depends on something else. So this was proposed by your Prandtl and von Karman actually at this particular point. Okay, von Karman, he did some experiments and he proposed that your L is equal to 0.41 times of your corresponding y. Okay, this is called as von Karman constant. This L, no, so whatever the length scale he proposed actually, that Prandtl proposed, so that was maybe von Karman, he was able to support it with a value where what is this y? Y is the distance. See, y is the distance measured from the solid surface. From the solid surface. He was able to come up with a value for L is equal to 0.41 times of y. And if I'm able to substitute this in a particular equation, what will happen to your tau? Equation number 1. So therefore, your equation 1 becomes, what it becomes? So your tau is equal to mu into du by dy bar plus rho into L square into du by dy square. So if I call this as equation number 3, what exactly is it actually? See, you have a fluctuating component over here. This fluctuating component I am trying to represent it some other form so that I will end up with some kind of an approximate solution. That's it. So all these modifications were done by Prandtl. It was supported by von Karman. So just to convert your tau, that is shear stress values of the fluctuating or turbulence component into some other length scale, that is L, which is equal to 0.41 times, which has been found to be 0.41 times of y. So that this I can put it any of your Navier-Stokes equation or something, I'll be able to obtain a solution. So these kind of models were proposed. So this is used as a supporting to your Navier-Stokes equation. In the Navier-Stokes equation, what we have, you have the component of your viscosity. See, to the right hand side, wherever you have mu into dou square u by dou x square, dou square u by dou y square, plus dou square u by dou z square for the x momentum. Or if you take the y momentum, mu into dou square v by dou x square, dou square v by dou y square. So wherever you have the mu component, so the right hand side component, those components are called as your fluctuating components. Sorry, viscous components. Then to the right hand side, after that we have what is called as your fluctuating turbulence components. So this turbulence components and your viscosity components has to be replaced with some other equations to obtain the solutions. So this kind of solutions are proposed by different equations, what we call k epsilon or k omega, whatever it may be. So one such proposal was from this Prandtl to take care of your tau, fluctuating component of the shear stress component of the fluctuating component. Okay, so now if I take any of the two equations, this is about your Prandtl mixing model. Anyhow, see, you need not do the derivation, or derivation will run to more than a couple of pages actually, but you have to understand that I'm going to take that particular part and this equation I'm going to convert it to one particular part, put it in your Navier-Stokes equation to obtain the solution. Okay, fine. So now, is that clear? You take any of the Prandtl's mixing length model and try to go to that equation and try to understand this. So if I take the k epsilon model, okay, let me take the k epsilon turbulence model, k epsilon turbulence model. Okay, I just am going to take the equation and try to do it. See your turbulence model k epsilon. See, what are this k and epsilon? See, k and epsilon are the constants. So I am going to use this k and epsilon constants in such a way to capture your turbulence phenomena. Okay, so now what is this k? K is a constant. What is epsilon? Epsilon is the dissipation. See, when you speak of turbulence, what is the dissipation term? Dissipation terms are something which is added to the equation or something which is removed from the equation to balance and to calculate the unknowns. Okay. At any given point, see, for the turbulent, this particular k epsilon model, your k is given by, so your k is given by your dou into, okay, so this is how your k will be obtained, plus dou into dou of ui by xi is equal to dou of xj into mu t into dou of k divided by sigma k into dou of xj plus 2 into mu t into E of ij and minus rho into epsilon. So this is the equation for k. But what you see in your most of your CFD models is you will be having the value for k. This k is solved based on this particular equation. Okay. So similarly, if you look at it, you have the dissipation term. So you have the dissipation term, epsilon. Okay. So that is given by dou into rho epsilon by dou t plus dou into rho epsilon ui by rho xi is equal to dou of xj into mu t into dou epsilon by your sigma epsilon into dou xj plus, here it is actually some constant c on of epsilon, c of epsilon into epsilon by k into 2 into mu t into E of ij, sorry, ij square, ij square minus C2 of E, that is a constant, into rho epsilon square by K. Okay. Now, if you look into this particular thing, so this is the one of the what we call as the eddy viscosity model. So eddy viscosity model. See, what is this E of ij? See, let me write. E of ij means this is the deformation rate. How your fluid will deform. This is the deformation rate. What is this ui? Ui is nothing but your velocity in that particular direction. So velocity component in that particular direction. In that direction. Okay, and you have different constants. C mu, sigma k, all these constants has been obtained actually. So this has been found actually. So if I take C mu, the C mu is found to be around 0.09. Your sigma k is found to be 1.01. Your sigma epsilon is found to be 1.3. C of 1 epsilon is found to be 1.44. C of 2 epsilon is found to be 1.92. So these are the values proposed by these people who has proposed this K epsilon model, has given this equation, and they have come up with a constant. This constant has been found after maybe through experimentation or through some kind of a trial and error. Okay, some kind of a trial and error. So what is this mu t? Mu t is nothing but your fluctuating, see, mu t is nothing but is the viscosity for that particular fluctuating turbulence component. Okay, so this kind of, if you look into the any kind of a turbulence model equations actually, so this equation, they will give the equation either k they are going to give, epsilon they are going to give, and based on the constants we should be able to solve that equation. Even if you go and look into the k omega also, so k omega also you will be having a similar kind of an equation. Even if you take for example shear stress model also, you will have this equation. So each and every constant you will be given, you will be getting an equation, and that based on that equation you have to solve and obtain the solutions. And it all depends on your what we call it as the y plus. Okay, we call that as a y plus. So what is that y plus? Y plus I think is the what is the nearest where you are trying to calculate the nearest distance from your wall where you want to calculate this turbulent phenomena, where you want to capture the phenomena. So it all depends on that particular thing. Okay, fine. So I will try to stop here.